Good morning, Ken. How are you today?
I'm great, Fiona. Thank you very much indeed for asking. It's a beautiful day down here in Turks and Caicos.
Now, I'm very fortunate because obviously I've worked with you for many years and I know where you are, but maybe you might want to just tell us exactly where you are, please, Ken.
Sure. Well, we're in Seven Stars Resort and Spa, which for those of you who don't know the Caribbean, it's one of the premier Caribbean resorts, and we're located on Grace Bay Beach in Turks and Caicos. And there are, as Fiona will put a few pictures up, a few images up as we go along, but Grace Bay Beach has been the #1 beach in the world for nigh on 15 years now. And in the first period of our lockdown, which lasted for 6 weeks, no one was allowed to go on that beach. So I've actually put an image in of what the beach looked like during those 6 weeks without a single footprint on the best beach in the world. And it was beautiful to see. And you can see it slowly returning to nature as little spindrifts and bits of seaweed came up and washed up. And actually, since the lockdown, our guys have been out there tidying up all that and cleaning the seaweed off the beach again and putting it back into where it's supposed to be, which is 100% clean for our guests whenever our guests ever come back.
I mean, that's incredible, Ken, isn't it? Because it's a beautiful beach anyway, but when I saw that photograph, oh my goodness, stunning, stunning. You can see why it wins the award every year.
Yeah, and we look after it very well. I mean, not just us, but every resort in Grace Bay grooms that beach to perfection every morning.
So maybe you could talk us through how it's been since the initial lockdown right through to sort of now, and then a bit later on we'll talk about the things that you're doing in readiness for guests. That would be great, please.
Yeah, sure. So this whole thing started for us, the same as everyone else in the world, about beginning to the middle of March, when our guests started to see what was going on and they started to get a little bit anxious. And we're starting to leave early, and then we realized this was a real problem. By the 24th of March, the islands had actually closed down, and it closes airports totally. So then we had to get all those guests, the remaining guests and owners, off the island, either commercially or by private jet. And we managed to clear the resort. Then the island went into a total lockdown, a 24-hour curfew for 6 weeks. And that was interesting. As you know, we have a staff accommodation block for our expats, which is on a 12-acre site just a few miles up the road. So those staff were actually allowed to come down a corridor which we set up on a staff bus with social distancing, with masks, with gloves. And we got them here. We got a few of them here every day. So we kept the resort going. We kept watering the grass. One of the big things we did was we took the decision on day one to feed all of our staff twice a day with nutritious meal, some fruits, some vegetables, some protein, some carbs, and something sweet. And we gave each staff member 2 full meals a day so they could take that meal home to their families, those who weren't living in our staff accommodation. So I think that was first and foremost in our mind, was how do we look after our staff? How do we look after the people that are our team and our family here? And I think that's gone down very well with us, because we're now on week 8 and we're still doing it. I mean, this morning Chef Edwin produced 220 meals times 2. So and I've actually sent you a few images which you can show of just what's happening in our kitchen. So our kitchens are keeping going, even though our restaurants, our fine dining restaurants, our beach restaurants remain closed. It means we can keep that culinary team going as well and keep them interested in what's happening, even though it's not the Chateaubriand, but it is something important for them to do for our team, which is great for Edwin and his team.
Yeah, I mean, Chef Edwin and the team have pulled it out the bag again, haven't they, Ken? I mean, it's just fantastic. And those photos people will see, that really does take team food, staff food to a new level, doesn't it? But already we're very focused on looking after the team, aren't we? And obviously when I'm over there 4 times a year, we focus a lot on how they are and the training and so on, don't we? So how are you finding you're leading your business at the moment with the teams that are working?
Well, I suppose I do what I always do in a crisis, and I jump up and I lead from the front, which is what I'm best suited to doing, I think. And I love to get my hands dirty and get involved with as much as I can, and really just make sure that I'm touching as many team members as possible. I actually live, as you know, on the resort, on property. So it's very easy for me to keep that contact with everyone who's coming down here. Very early on, within the first week or two, the senior team and I put together a huge job list of stuff that we wanted to do and achieve during the lockdown. And that list is what we're now working our way through. So, we do have work for our guests. Sorry, for our guests. I wish. We do have work for our staff, even though we have no guests at the moment.
So Ken, with the team that are still working and are still with you, and you might say in a moment about you've been brilliant that you've kept as many team members on board as possible, with pay and so on. What do you do? Maybe tell us a bit more about that, and then also tell us a bit more about what sort of projects you're keeping them busy with.
We started off obviously just with our list of projects of what we're going to, the cleaning, the painting, the scrubbing, sorting out storerooms, going to the underneath of the resort and getting rid of all that stuff that we wanted to get rid of for years. But then we started evolving into how do we set the resort up for our guests when they come back down. Our guests need to be convinced that 7 Stars Resort and Spa is safe for them and their families. So the dine around or dine anywhere option is a new concept, which I'm sure it's not new. I'm sure a lot of people will be doing this in the future. So you can choose off any menu from any of our 3 restaurants to eat that anywhere you want. It can be in your suite, it can be on the beach, it can be in the gardens, it can be on one of our decks, it can be in one of our restaurants. And to help facilitate that, we've actually we're building them right now, and I've actually sent you a picture of one of the new dining pods that we've built over the last 2 months. And it gives the option of having a family of 6 dining in that pod. This particular one I've sent you is actually overlooking Grace Bay Beach, and it's a beautiful dining option. During the day, it can be used as a private beach cabana because you're overlooking the beach. So that's the sort of thing that we've been doing for the last 2 months, is just creating dining areas, creating areas where you can do social isolation for our guests, where we don't have to interact with, they don't have to interact with other guests, so they feel safe.
Yeah, sounds good. And with the team, Ken, how are you sort of keeping them sort of motivated and keeping them updated? Because as you well know, it changes. Having said that, in Turks and Caicos, the communication is really great, isn't it? In most respects. And it's like, so how are you making sure you keep the team updated with the daily and weekly changes?
One of the ways which is very helpful for communication is that food delivery system. So not everyone comes to the resort for curbside delivery. Sometimes the managers, the supervisors will come, they'll pick up 10 meals and they'll take those 10 meals out to their communities and leave them on doorsteps and have a conversation with the staff as they're doing it. In our staff accommodation blocks, we have about 120 people there. So those are quite easy to communicate with because we bring the food to them every day. And that allows messages to be passed. Obviously, the senior team has been kept together. We have a meeting. It was originally a Zoom meeting every morning, and then once the curfew was relaxed slightly, we now meet in 7 restaurants, 6 feet apart, for that 9 o'clock morning meeting. And from there, we cascade down the messages to our staff from that point.
Sounds great, Ken. Really, really good. So things in Turks and Caicos or things in Provo, are people trying to get on with things, trying to get back to a little bit of normality? Do you think that people will start to come into the restaurants, or will you just keep it just for guests? How does it kind of feel at the moment?
Well, restaurants are tricky right now because all they've done is they've allowed, the government and the governor have allowed for takeout only. So a number of restaurants which are able to do a takeout menu and takeout service where you're not going into the restaurant to pick up. A number of restaurants have done that, including our terrace restaurant, which we actually just opened it 3 months ago, and then it was closed after 4 weeks. So that restaurant's opened up because it is just outside the resort. And as you know, it's set up that people can actually social distance while waiting for their takeaway menu. That's been relatively successful. It's only in the first 2 weeks. But I think it's going to be July before the island actually opens up to tourists coming in. And it won't be until then that we actually manage to open our restaurants. Like everyone else, our restaurant tables are now well apart, so people can feel comfortable sitting there and not interact with other guests. And of course, the staff will be masked, gloved where appropriate, and that's going to be a bit of a weird restaurant experience. But I think that's what we have to do in order to make our guests feel comfortable that they're safe here.
Yes, and it's interesting, there's an article today from Danny Meyer was saying we don't want to open until it can be social and back to how it was. But I think most people I'm speaking to are trying to do something along the lines of what you're doing to at least open, at least have something. Do you think people will be really excited about coming back? I mean, I'm sure Ingrid and the team are raring to go with the reservations. What sort of things are you sensing so far, Ken, as far as people coming back and so on?
We're seeing a huge pent-up demand out there. There has been some surveys come out of the States that what's the top of the list of something that our demographic, the 2% who want a luxury Caribbean holiday or vacation, and the number one thing on their list is coming to the Caribbean, to their favorite resort. So we think that if we can persuade them that this is a safe thing to do, I think, and we think that this will take off again quite quickly. At the moment, we actually think we're a COVID-free destination. We've in the last 4 months, we've only had 12 cases, period. And at the moment, we have none. And with the testing speeding up in the States, one of the ideas that the island is having is that our incoming guests need to take a test within the week before travel, and be able to prove to us or to immigration, whoever's going to make that determination, that they're coming in with effectively a passport that has showed them that they haven't got the virus within the past week. That reduces the risk to the virus starting again on this island. And if we can market ourselves as a COVID-free destination, then that's something that could be worthwhile considering. I know Cayman are thinking about doing the same thing. The danger, of course, if you market yourself as a COVID-free destination and you have one case, now you're not a COVID-free destination anymore. So it won't be a frontline message, but it'll certainly be a message that we send to our guests that we are a safe destination, as safe as you could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when I was chatting with Bella this week, and now you're looking at how you get that message across before and when they arrive at the resort, isn't it? And you're looking at lots of different things for that whole sort of guest journey when they do start arriving again. So how's that been as a team trying to work out, obviously I've seen the new standards and so on. How's that been as a team trying to work out what that might look like?
We've all done a lot of reading. Every resort and hotel in the world has been working on this now for 2.5 months. I know we have, and it's a very different world. We no longer will come and touch every guest 45 minutes around the pool with a fruit skewer. We'll no longer come to you and ask, do you want your sunglasses cleaned? We'll no longer be able to touch every guest every 45 minutes. That's just not possible in the new world that we're in. We're not going to offer turn down service unless you want it. It'll be by request only. It's totally alien to us as a 5-star resort, with producing these beautiful world standards which we pride ourselves on and have built over the last 12 years, to suddenly drawing back from that. One of the things we're doing around the pool and beach, which you can see behind me in the window, is we're setting up pop-up bars, which will be convenient for our guests to walk to and get a bottle of champagne or a glass of wine or a beer or whatever. So rather than us going to them, they can now literally get off their bed, walk a few yards and come to us. So we're going to set up those pop-up bars around the place, and combined with the anywhere dining concept, that's something I think which I think will be a good standard going forward, certainly for the next 2 to 3 years until we get through this, and that's the time scale that I think we're all thinking about. This isn't going to end soon. It is a 2 to 3 year plan, and we're using technology, and we no longer will you have your in-room directory, no longer will you have a physical menu. It'll all be on your phone. Your daily paper, as all other resorts of our standards, you choose whatever paper you want to be delivered to your room that morning. It'll now be delivered to your WhatsApp or your email, whatever you want, and that's a choice that you will have coming in. Even the entry level experience will be different. As you know, we have a lovely reception which we actually can do social distancing. People don't queue at our front desk. They're shown to a safe area. They're shown to a comfortable area now, which is now a safe, comfortable area. All those beautiful coffee table books have gone. All those chess boards have gone. The library has gone. The DVD library is now online. So when you want a DVD in your room for the kids, you just pick something from our website, because we're recreating our website to be a customer experience for the new post-COVID era.
It's incredible, Ken, because I'm sitting here thinking, my goodness, I've worked with you for many years now, and all those detailed things that we've worked on, service experiences, now it's a case of re-looking at those, isn't it? And actually you're just embracing that, which is fantastic. So linking with that, how do you think the service experience will change then? Do you think that guests will just be expecting that now? And then with the team, we'll have to have interactions when we can and in a way that we can. How do you think the service experience will now be?
The service experience is going to be guest driven. They'll be horrified if they come down here and we offer them something which has come from someone's hands, or we just have to provide them with a service that they feel safe with. So this is going to be customer driven. It's not going to be, we're obviously getting ahead of it, but if we don't, our guests will not return, and and obviously social media, which is a very powerful tool for our guests, that's what's going to make the difference between us and someone else who doesn't get ahead of this curve. So we're very much thinking, as I've always thought as a guest, as you know, in this hotel, our 12th birthday was yesterday. On 20th of May 2009, we bought this resort, and at the time, as you know, I actually didn't have any hospitality experience. It was just one of those weird experiences where, we were an owner here, and maybe a little bit of the background might help. This is a condo-based hotel or a resort where there are about 80 different condo owners owning 100 different condos, and they put them in a rental pool, which are managed by the management company. That management company went bust during the last recession, and I put together a consortium of the condo owners and bought the resort. That was 12 years ago, and within 3 or 4 years, we became one of the leading resorts in the Caribbean. Within 5 or 6 years, we became one of the leading resorts in the world. And that's where we are, and that's where we want to stay, but with social distancing, and that's going to be the next thing. So how do we do that? And I put myself very much into a guest's head, and what would I expect walking through this resort? I can no longer go to other resorts around the Caribbean and the world to experience them, which is what I used to do a lot. So now I just have to use my imagination, use our online databases, and see what other people are doing and see what I would want as a guest.
Yeah, fantastic, Ken. That's really great. And that's going to be the way forward, isn't it? Guest driven. And interestingly, some of the values that we've worked on still will be relevant, guest first and looking and being helpful and so on, but just in a slightly different way. Last couple of questions, please. I'd like to, first of all, we've been asking everybody who's been doing our Storm Pods, just to share any sort of wise words or some advice, again, like we've been talking about, you're that little further ahead than the rest of them. Any wise words or anything you'd like to share with our wonderful industry people, please?
Well, I mean, it's not wise words, but obvious words. Is it's thanking the team. It's keeping that team together. You know, a family like Seven Stars, like any great resort or any great hotel, is not one person; it is the team. And you know, we've been very fortunate to build a fantastic team over the last 12 years, and that team is being kept together because we need that team going forward, albeit a little smaller than it was a month ago. But you know, that team, and you know, I thank that team, you know, from the bottom of my heart, because you know, without them, we wouldn't be what Seven Stars is today. So that team are the people and the folk who are going to bring us forward through the next 2 to 3 years. They're the ones that are going to, you know, be facing our guests whenever they come in, and they're the ones that are going to give us that luxurious 5-star experience in whatever COVID-19 post world that we're going into.
That's such a great point, Ken. And of course, I've been very blessed that I've worked for them for many years, and they're a really remarkable team, aren't they?
Oh, tremendous. They're fantastic. They really are. And you know, I just can't thank them enough.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. So let's end with one last question then. I know that you love traveling. I know that you enjoy traveling the world, but what will you most look forward to doing, Ken, when you are able to go back and do whatever the new normal looks like? What would you like to do straight away?
I suppose the one thing that Michelle and I have missed this year mostly is traveling. You know, particularly to see friends and family. Although, you know, the Zoom cocktail hour and the Zoom, you know, family gatherings and Zoom friend gatherings have partially replaced that. But, you know, visiting to see friends and families, to see parents who, you know, we can't even go into the same room as at the moment. To get those back in place will be lovely. For experiences, just, you know, getting back to Ireland, you know, to see those same friends and family. To play golf in you know, Portmarnock and Lahinch, two of the finest links golf courses in the world. Just to sip a pint of Guinness in Gibney's in Malahide or Egan's in Liscannor. Those are the little experiences that we miss, and those are the ones that we look forward to getting back to. And I suppose, you know, finally, you know, the one thing that we all miss is, you know, looking forward to welcoming our guests back to Seven Stars and giving them the experience that we're famed for.
Yeah, great. Ken, I think that's a great point to leave it on. So thank you, as always, for your time. Thank you. It's great to see you, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
All right. Thanks, Fiona, and goodbye.